Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm joined today by my friend, Jennifer Connell, Vice President, Advisory Services, Weichert Workforce Mobility. Jen, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Ben. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here with you as well. It looks like the sun is shining where you are. Sun is shining here in Dallas, Texas. Where in the world are you today, Jen?
Well, I'm actually at our headquarters in Morris Plains, New Jersey, but I hail from Boston. So
Nice. HQ there. Nice. Very cool. Get in the comments if you're watching right now. Let us know who you are, where you are. Is it sunny there? Is it hot? It's like 106 here in Texas. This is great. Hit that like button. Let us know what's going on out there. Adrian checking in. Warm Dallas. Warm is an understatement right now. Glomo HQ. It is so stinking hot here. Is it hot like this in Jersey? It's hot. It's real hot.
it's pretty warm. I think you're bringing Dallas everywhere. I was up in Canada last week in Toronto and Montreal, and it was pretty hot up there as well. So summer's here.
Yeah. Summer is here and in effect. Kelly checking in. Tyler. People saying yes. Hello from Houston. It's very hot. Newsflash. It's hot. This is why people tune into the show, to make sure that they get the weather updates. Scott Chapman. Good afternoon, Ben and Jennifer. Gina checking in from Smoky in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Gina, you got some, is it like the Canadian wildfires? What's going on? It's smoky up there. Why is it smoky? Let us know. Blazing hot in Dallas. Yeah, this is David checking in, sending smoke from Canada. Put it out, David. No smoking. Yeah, this is exciting. Jen, to have you on. I just saw you, a few weeks ago here in Dallas at FEM. I had the honor of being in the room. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I'm sorry, but I got to ask you. You won a major award at FEM. You won basically like the biggest individual award that they give for your outstanding contribution to mobility. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what did that feel like?
It was a shock. That was quite an honor. It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
I want to ask you because I remember the way that Claire kind of read it off. Like she has this way of like reading off like little tips and like. Yeah. At what point did you know? She's like, oh, and this person did this and this person did that. And like, at what point did you like, is this me?
Well, I kind of knew it was gonna be me. She did let me know a little bit in advance, because it is the one award where the person gets to say a few things afterwards.
Okay.
But I had to keep it on a little bit hush hush.
Yeah, really.
A few people at the table kind of looked over at me at one point because it started to sound familiar to them.
Yeah.
I had to kind of keep that look on my face, like nope. The poker face.
What do you know? Well, they want to make sure you show up too, right? They're like, hey, listen, you better be here for this, okay? I don't know what you got planned, but you better cancel it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was that feeling? So then she announced your name. Your table, I'm sure, went absolutely bananas for you. And then you got up to give a few words. What was that feeling like? I mean,
yeah, well, it was pretty amazing because the whole night, we had the Weichert group, we had 2 tables full of colleagues and clients, and it was pretty exciting. We had a session earlier that day that was a lot of fun. And then at dinner that night, we were just all having a really great time. And right before that, I was announced our company was won the award for RMC of the year. Wow. So we just we're already celebrating, having a great time. And so when that award was announced, we were just having an outstanding night, and it was just such a great way to celebrate. And I have such a great group of colleagues, so everybody was really happy for me, and yeah, it was great.
I was very happy for you as well. They gave me like the worst seat in the house. I was sitting all the way in the back in the corner, but I'm sitting there and I'm literally, as you're winning these things and all these accolades, I'm like texting Dave Pennsylvania, and I'm like, dude, you guys are killing it. I was like, oh my gosh, and then Jen just won this, individual award, like, and he was like, so we were having this like thing where we were kind of like rooting you on like virtually and stuff, and it was really cool to see that for you. And we got people checking in. Get in the comments. If you got questions for Jen, let us know. Hit that like button as well. I want to know what you're thinking out there. We're going to be talking about advisory services and what all that means. We're going to talk about mobility trends. We're going to be talking about kind of mentorship and the people that have helped us get us where we are. And Jen, you know, that was a big part of your acceptance speech. And I just want to stay here just for one more second and ask you about the people in your life that helped you get to that point. I know that was a big part, and you recognized a lot of people, which I thought was super cool. Tell me a little bit about those people and the kind of contribution they made.
Oh yeah, I mean, I couldn't stand up there without talking about the people that, I mean, I've been so lucky to have had an interesting career. I've been in mobility for nearly 25 years, and I never thought I would be in one career for such a long time, let alone one company. But I truly, truly do. I'm one of those corny people who says they love what they do. And I've been in this role for almost the entire time. And I've been so fortunate to have so many people who've kind of encouraged me all along the way, great leaders. Even before I was in mobility, I was in some sort of employee benefits realm, you know, doing something. I've been surrounded by fabulous female leaders. Most recently, and for a very long time, Ellie Sullivan, who's been on your show. You know her very well.
Yeah, legend.
She is retiring, and she's been so fortunate. We've almost had parallel lives, even on a personal level. She raised 3 boys, almost, you know, one right after the other. I did myself. So we've had a lot of laughs and similarities in that respect. And she's really kind of blazed a path for me and been able to kind of show me the way and give me some great advice. So for that, I'll always be grateful. But I've had other wonderful people who've been able to show me the way. You know, Vicki Lander, who has been on your show,
love
and Sandy
Vicki.
McKinney, and of course Tim McCarney, who you know so well.
Yeah.
You know, we've been working together for so many years, and everybody just brings their own way, you know, to work. Even though sometimes in mobility we all go to different companies and take on different roles, I just love what everybody brings to the table. You know, whether it's their sense of humor or their work ethic or just their perspective, and even being able to kind of debate on topics. You know, it's always been very familiar and friendly, the way we do things, the way we work together and kind of find new solutions. So yeah, that's the kind of leadership and the kind of mentorship that I've always looked for and from people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like a real blessing. I know for myself as well. You know, I wouldn't be here without a lot of people putting a lot of effort into me.
Who would you say was your biggest mentor when you were starting out that you probably don't even think was your mentor?
You know what? I have a lot of people that aren't well known in the industry who are kind of more behind the scenes people. And I was just thinking, I think about this all the time. There was a guy, Tim Vandegrift, who was the chief personal property officer for the Air Force, who really helped me out, you know, when took me under his wing, taught me the military and government side of the moving business. Back when I was at Pods, there was this guy, Doug Prescott, who is like known in some old school mover circles, you know, who kind of taught me about like real household goods moving, because I was at Pods where it was just containerized, you know. So he taught me about like the actual, like the moving, the minute trucks and boxes operation, you know. There's just so many crazy, you know. I had some good bosses. I had some bad bosses, but I learned a lot from those as well. But I had some good bosses that, you know, I remember one, Matt Tillotson. You know, he's like, you know, I used to wear a tie to work every day, and I was in the call center, and people would just razz me about it just endlessly, you know, because like, ooh, who do you think you are, you know? And then like the older people were like, I wore a tie for 20 years, so I don't have to now, and whatever. And they kind of didn't like, because I was kind of raising the bar a little bit. And Matt, and I was like, Matt, you think I should stop wearing this tie? I'm getting a lot of crap from like the other, you know, sales people around here and stuff. He's like, no, it's part of your personal brand. And when I heard that, I was like, personal brand. I was like, I'd never heard the concept personal brand before. And now personal branding has become like a big part of my career, you know? And so I didn't even know that was a thing. So there's like just so many of these people along the way. But I think it's also key, and I'm sure you did this. I mean, you have to be a sponge, and you have to be very receptive and open to receiving feedback, to receiving coaching, to just asking questions and sitting there and just listening. People will give you a lot if you just ask and seem interested, frankly.
Yeah. And it sounds like you learned from that lesson to trust your own voice, you know?
Yeah, that was a definite journey because I don't know, my voice hasn't always been a voice to trust, to be honest with you. That takes some honing, right? You got to actually know what you're talking about, you know? And so if I think for a lot of years, I didn't actually know what I was talking about. So I think I had to also get the chops and get good at what I was doing, you know? And I'm going to ask you a little bit about advisory services because, you know, it seems to be like, the smartest person in the room kind of a job. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about that here.
I don't know about that.
I'm going to ask people that are watching right now, because we got a bunch of people checking in, hit that like button. Also get in the comments. Have you learned from someone in your career? Who was that person? If you want to just give a shout out, let's send a little love out there. You know, if you want to give a shout out, put it in the comments here. Hosea Botley is another person that's really poured himself into me. I love this guy. He was one of my first clients when I started Glomo. Just amazing. Mark Britt was another person who's put a lot into me as well. Hello from hot Atlanta. It's not a contest, Mark, but man, Atlanta's hot. This is great. Adam Sotelo, super producer Adam, checking in. Chris, lots of wet weather, low pressure. Chris Bernone, Team Weichert in the house. Teresa, checking in. Sherry's been great. She's been on the show a lot. Farrell, Jana from Brazil. What an inspiration, she says. Do you ever feel like that? Do you feel like now so many people are giving you mentorship? Do you feel like it's kind of on you now to like pay it forward?
In a way, yeah. I'm kind of. I feel like I'm kind of starting to crest that hill a little bit. Where the one thing about these awards that somebody recently told me is that it's a wonderful opportunity now to kind of use to kind of accelerate those kind of efforts to be able to pay it forward and to advance some of the good things that I want to do in the name of mobility and some of the things that we see. You know, when you were at the Form of Expatriate Management, you might have seen some of the good work that was being done there with the students that were presenting. And I mean, that was just so eye-opening for me. There were a lot of students there that were part of the Global Mobility Project and the case studies where they presented problems and they each had to take on a case study in mobility and present a solution around it. And they were just these undergraduates who they were just so articulate and fabulous. And they got on stage in front of all these seasoned mobility experts. And I mean, I couldn't imagine doing that when I was 20 years old, and they were amazing. And, you know, to do that and kind of give us the spotlight a little bit, and then to have conversations with them later, it was great. And I've already connected with some of them on LinkedIn. They reached out to me, and I kind of want to explore that a little bit. And yeah, they had some really nice things to say later. It was great.
Yeah, they were incredible. And their projects were so well researched.
They were.
And I'm like, man, we get on these stages all the time and just kind of spew conjecture left and right at these conferences. And these kids are coming up with research, and it's like cross-referenced, and there's a bibliography, there's footnotes. I'm like, man, like the level of scholarship here and the rigor here is just incredible. This is great. We got people checking in here about their bosses and mentors. Mike Quigley, hey, he always fills my cup with encouragement as well. I appreciate you. Farrell Elliott says, my first boss at PHH in 91. Linda Nicky is the reason I'm here now. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think about one of my first mentors was back when I graduated from undergraduate. My first job out of college, I worked for an insurance company, and his name was Stephen Donnelly, and he was kind of just somebody who supervised me in I worked in cubicle farm, and and I remember I had to check in with him once a week, and I just remember making small talk with him, and I knew that he was going for his MBA, and once a week I would sit in his cubicle, and I was very polite, and I'd check in with him, and I would ask him about how his school was going, just making small talk, and then one day he said to me, "Why do you keep asking about it? Are you thinking about doing it?" And I said, "Oh, no, not me. I could never do that. I'm not smart enough." And then one day he said, "Oh, no, you should do it." And then every single week he would ask me, "What are you thinking about going?" When are you going to apply? Where would you go if you could apply? He's the reason I went after my MBA.
Wow.
He set me on that path. And about a year ago, out of the blue, he reached out to me on LinkedIn and we started talking. Yeah. And it was amazing. And it gave me the opportunity to, and it doesn't happen often where you get to thank somebody years later for setting you on that career path. And I got to thank him for that. I said, you're the reason, one of the reasons I am where I am.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is such an honor to be able to thank people who have given you that kind of a push in your life, and then so that they can actually reap the rewards of that, you know?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. This is great. We got people checking in here. We're going to be talking about advisory service. We're going to be talking about trends in mobility. We're going to be talking about all that kind of stuff. So get in the comments. I want to know what questions you have for Jen here. David Yakum says, Ben, I learned a ton from you, but didn't realize until years later. I never understood the millennial brand, but you schooled me after many years in mobility at 39 years this year. I worked with David, and David and I butted heads because David was like a traditional, like from the moving industry, you know, and I was like not from the moving industry. So we attacked things at totally different angles. And every day I'd come into work and David would tell me I'm top of the prayer list today. That was David's really kind way of saying, bless your heart, you know? And yeah, he said he'd pray for me every day, and he did. And I appreciated that, David. Kelly just said, I've been fortunate to work with so many amazing folks in the industry of the year. Jennifer Connell being one of them. Also special shout out to Mark Bennett, Tim McCarney, Ellie Sullivan, Sarah Kenning, and Ida.
Hi,
Sarah
Kelly.
Wow. She touched them all, didn't she? Look at that. Ryan Marsh, love your podcast. I can't believe I didn't jump on board long ago. It's okay, Ryan. Listen, man, the bandwagon's still rolling along, man. There's space for everybody. Michelle, you two make another great benefit.
Michelle, wow. Is Michelle in marketing? She should be.
Wow. Print the t-shirts. I'll buy one. Charlie says, I've been fortunate to have several mentors in my career. They did so much to help me achieve success. Without their knowledge and encouragement, I do not think. Yeah, Charlie runs the Pennsylvania Movers Association, I believe, as well. Super cool. You know, I'm going to ask you another question, okay? Before we get into trends, I promise we're going to get into mobility trends, and I'm sure the people at Weichert want to talk about mobility trends. Everybody wants more relo, and I'm always talking about the love stuff. But I got to ask you, Jen, you have started a podcast yourself. What is that like? You're doing like your thing. I scroll through LinkedIn. You're interviewing all these like influential, you know, smart people in our industry. How do you like being on the mic and asking all the tough questions?
So I've been doing webinars for years. So that part of it isn't new, and I've done a lot of sessions at ERC, and I do that quite a bit. So that part of it isn't new, and I would never in a million years even try to step into your territory. I don't know how you do this on a regular
the job
basis.
Might be open. You just let me know. Just lob in a resume. You know, we might have a spot here.
Fine. You can have the you have so much fun with this, and I have to say it was so exciting watching you at FEM, because you walked in, you have your people now, you have like all this equipment. it's like watching something out of Hollywood show up on the scene. Like, who is this person with all this booms and mics?
Got a guy standing over here holding something. Yeah.
You show up in the tux and everything because it was the gala, but no, it's been a lot of fun, and it's actually something our marketing team it was one of their initiatives, and I was happy to kind of just be the front person to be the interview. I love asking questions. That's part of being an advisory. We were talking about this before we got started. You know, what does it mean to be an advisory?
Yeah, what is advisory?
It means having a curious mind. Not always knowing the answers, but helping clients to help them find the answers that they need to support the solutions that they need. Is really, to me, that's what it means, and helping them to kind of craft that solution, generally speaking. But having the show is really putting them in the spotlight. And that's what we wanted to do, is put our clients and put corporate mobility professionals at the center of the stage. How did they get into mobility? And it's really meant to be just kind of a short video segment about, some solution that they created. Or how they got into mobility, and giving them the visibility that they really deserve, and how mobility is the center of what they do within their company.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. That's a good segue actually into trends. And I want to ask everybody who's watching right now. I'd love to ask everyone who is watching, what is the number one trend you are seeing? Just give me one trend. See Ryan, Charlie, Michelle, Kelly, everybody, get in the comments. I want to know what is one trend you're seeing. And I think it's really cool because we have people from all different types of sub industries and sub verticals here. So, a household goods person might see something different than a corporate housing person, might see something different than a title person, or, whatever. Right. So I'd love for everybody to get in the comments. What is one trend you're seeing that is impacting your industry right now? And I'd love to be able to crowdsource this stuff. And Jen, I'm going to ask you, since you talk to so many clients in your capacity as the advisory services leader, what trends are you seeing right now? And I just want to, maybe we can unpack them kind of one by one and discuss.
Yeah, we're seeing so much changing right now. Talk about being an exciting time right now to be in mobility, and that's one way to put it. Everything has kind of switched so quickly. 6-8 months ago, everything was all about how do we get talent in the door fast enough. You almost couldn't throw enough benefits at them. But now we're starting to see companies changing a little bit, and the employee side of things has changed over to more of the employer side. You might be seeing it as well. So companies are being far more strategic about how they're doling out benefits, let's just say. So we've been having a lot of conversations with companies about,
I think you're right. I think you're spot on.
The whole remote hybrid workforce is really having an impact on the way companies reach out to employees, how they connect with them, how they hire them, and how they're going to drive their mobility programs.
So I'm going to throw something at you here, and I want your opinion on this. And we have people checking in here. Hit that like button. Throw your number one trend in the comments here. We're going to crowdsource this a little bit here, and we're going to ask Jen what she thinks about some of these trends.
Sure.
But you bring up one that's super interesting, right? So talent mobility is about getting the right people in the right place to do the right job, right? And you mentioned something before, it being used as a benefit to get people on board and to kind of get that velocity of talent into an organization, since talent is the lifeblood, right? So it's kind of getting that heart pumping and moving everybody around, doing that. And now you're correct in that the dynamic between the employer and the employee is changing a little bit. And in the job market, it is becoming more of an employer kind of driven job market than an employee job market. Although unemployment numbers still are very low and would still indicate that is an employee market, but the employer has more leverage than before. At the same time, we're seeing employers coming out in numbers that we haven't seen in a while and saying people need to return to office. There seems to be lately a push around that. I think I saw, was it Facebook announced that there's some different trends right now. And so I'm wondering if this is going to spur mobility activity that this year has been slow. What are your thoughts about the impact of this changing dynamic? Will it lead to more return to office, and will that increase mobility activity?
Yeah, I think that we're going to certainly see different types of mobility activity. It's going to change the way we think about mobility activity. I think we are going to see some increases, but it's going to be in different locations, and it's going to happen in different ways. I think we got very comfortable over the years of seeing the number of tiers increase in policies, and it was very predictable. We saw 3 tiers turn into 4 tiers, then 5 tiers. Now we're seeing companies looking at their mobility and saying, well, if we have a very specific project in a certain location, we're going to craft an entire program around that. Or if we need to bring, if we need a certain type of demographics, for example, we need sales employees, we're going to craft a program around the sales employees. Or if we need a commuter policy, we're going to craft a commuter policy. So they might have different programs around their specific needs, because coming out of the pandemic, they had to pivot very quickly, and they created specific programs around those. We're seeing a lot more that is falling under the umbrella of mobility. Before the pandemic, companies, when I would talk to them about, we called it extended business travel. Now it's just all business travel. A lot of companies said, we understand how all the pieces fit together. It's all compliance related. It involves immigration. It involves tax. And yeah, we understand it, and we are probably the ones who should own it, but we don't have the bandwidth. We don't want to own it. Coming out of the pandemic, it's not even a question. We just own it, and we have to manage it.
Right.
But again, they don't necessarily have the staff to do it, and so they're looking for partners and suppliers to be able to, and of course the technology to be able to do it. And are we seeing more activity as a result of it? Well, the activity was already there. They were already moving people, and they were already traveling. It's just now it's all falling under mobility, and it looks a lot different. One thing that we are seeing more is more domestic, global domestic, if you will, within countries more than ever. So that's certainly different. But
Really
companies are going to be looking for more technology to support it. They're looking for easier, more nimble ways to do it.
I want to throw some of these out that our audience has thrown out there, and I want to get your reaction to some of these. Okay, so let's take a couple here. I love when the audience gets involved. Y'all are the best. Hit that like button real quick and throw it in the comments here. We're seeing again a few people saying Core Flex here.
Yes,
Core Flex. People are doing it, not just talking about it. Core Flex is a big thing. Half dozen years ago, and it seems to have come back in a really big way, and it's a very hot buzzword right now. What are you seeing?
Oh, Rob, yes, absolutely. So I was trying to avoid actually saying that, because I feel like that's always my go-to. It's like it's almost too safe for me. But Rob, hi Rob, yeah, absolutely. Core Flex. People aren't just it's not just a buzzword anymore. It's people are doing it, and they're solving a lot of their talent questions and concerns with it. I think I would say about 5 or 7 years ago, I used to say it all the time. I would get questions 3, 4, 5 times a week about it. People would explore it. We'd kind of walk down the path, but at the end of the day, companies just couldn't really do it. For
what
one
changed?
reason or another, they couldn't bring it over the finish line.
Yeah.
And now companies are doing it. And I think the reason they're able to bring it over the finish line is because they can find the technology to support it. They can see what it actually looks like, and how it's going to take place, and how it's going to look like, and when the process is going to flow. They can report on it. They can make decisions, and how it's going to support all these these different types of programs. The nice part about it is that once they have it in place, in order to make incremental changes, they don't really have to do a lot. They don't have to go all the way up to the top to make those big changes, because the program and structure is already in place. They don't have to go to the CFO to make to get approvals.
It seems like the industry products and technology has caught up to the demand of all the corporates asking for it. Ryan says the adoption of technology in a prehistoric industry. I love it. That's a trend.
That's great.
What do you think?
One.
That's broad though. How are you seeing technology being implemented in ways that maybe it wasn't 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think the big part of technology is so I read a statistic, I'd say about a few months ago, somewhere that the average company, and I hate finger quotes, but I have to use them in this case. The average company uses over 80 systems within their HR technologies, which seems like a really high number until you think about it. How many different types of software and systems that a company really needs to support their employee workforce. I'm assuming the larger the company, the more systems they need. I think in the prehistoric industry, the problem was that they didn't really talk to each other and they weren't really integrated.
Yep.
And nowadays they do, with APIs and systems that are truly integrated. They are able to use that. And now, of course, with the advent of the AI and ChatGPT, we're seeing it just absolutely just rocket into the future. That employees are going to be able to use this kind of technology to help make their jobs easier. And SHRM just did an article. They published a study that showed that the number one, they surveyed employees or professionals, and they said the number one area that they're seeing AI is going to impact is HR. So see where that's going to go.
Interesting. And that was a SHRM study published.
Yes.
That SHRM?
It was published in SHRM.
Yeah. I wonder if that's skewed based on the audience or the sample, right? But I mean, I think it's interesting. I think that that is really interesting. What I've learned about AI is it's got to have access to data sets, like, right? So for recruitment, right? I'll just use something I know about, right? If I say I want to find the best relocation consultant in Dallas, Texas, or something like that, right? It'll say, oh, I don't have access to LinkedIn. Like, I can't go into LinkedIn's database and do that query. I don't have access to it. Basically it's got to be on the internet, open internet. If it's behind a paywall or a login wall or something like that, I can't get to it. Right. And so I think that's the next application, is to start, we talk about APIs, it's like, how do we start plugging these chat GPT kind of AI computing machines into our data sets and our other systems so that they can scan this and make sense of it for us. It'll be really interesting to see. I've got another one I'm gonna throw at you. What do you think about this one? Furniture allowances. Oliver Dubester coming in with a neat one here. This is a fun one. Furniture allowances. Oliver, I'll take more explanation too if you have it for us. But are you seeing this at all?
This was a big topic in the last few years because a lot of the supply chain issues, as well as the topic of sustainability. I felt like that was certainly, that came up a lot as an alternative in some cases, that companies were saying, can we do this instead of always shipping household goods as to reinforce sustainability? But they were also looking at it as, we just can't get things shipped, so can we do that? And I've seen some companies that are starting to kind of back away from that a little bit because of employee preferences. So 50-50. I'm not certain that that's always the case. Different.
I see challenges.
What I have seen is a lot of options being provided to employees. An option of the allowance versus the shipment of household goods. So in the name of employee experience, giving them an option of one or the other. What are you seeing?
Yeah,
world.
Yeah, you're right. And I think my perspective here is definitely colored by my bias towards the household goods industry, right? And I think it's really neat and tidy to say, here's $5,000, $10,000, whatever, go buy yourself, new furniture, right? Couple issues I see here, right, is like, we talk about sustainability because we don't want to ship household goods, which at face does seem pretty crazy sometimes. But if you give me all new furniture, what happens to the old stuff?
Exactly.
Now I'm throwing that away, because the new homeowner's not taking it into their 4-bedroom house. They got their own furniture, right? So all that stuff ends up in a landfill. So now I'm actually buying more furniture. So I think in everything, if we basically come to grips with the fact that everything we buy will eventually end up in a landfill, if we are comfortable with that premise, then we need to be buying less stuff if we really want to be sustainable. So I think that's something we should think about. And when we talk about an answer to a supply chain issue, which I know has eased a bit now, it's just hard to buy new furniture to ship old. It's still going on the same boats, it's still going on the same trucks, right? So I think I just don't know if I like this one. I think it's one of those things, like, as an employee benefit or as a perk, it just seems cool. Like, they're going to buy me all new furniture. It seems like a lot more of a fun proposition than moving the stuff I already have. But I think it leaves in its wake a lot of unanswered questions.
It does. And I've seen companies that are trying to get away from monetary type of allowances in some cases, we've done voice of the customer studies for clients where, we say, what is most impactful to you, your career, for benefits. And when they do that, spoiler, if you ask an employee what means the most to you, they will always pick the money.
Yeah.
So if you provide them a benefit or the money, they will always pick the money because they always think that they can, either somehow get a windfall or they can spend the money in the most impactful way. They don't really realize how much things cost to provide them the best employee experience. So companies have recognized that, and they'll say an allowance, as much as, we want to provide an allowance for all these altruistic reasons, maybe the best thing we can do is find some sort of middle ground. Maybe it's a smaller shipment where they still have their things, by the way, something that they're familiar with that makes them feel like they're still at home, but in some other way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's incumbent on us to convince both the employee that they need this benefit instead of just the cash, to your point. Mm-hmm. And we also have to convince the corporation that it's in their best interest to make sure that the employee takes the benefits and not the cash, because the employer might say, well, it's going to cost me $12,000 to ship the household goods, but I can stroke a check for 10. And maybe that's just, I just saved 18% or whatever on my spend. Right. So they kind of become complicit too, in a way, in this issue. So we have to convince both parties, and it's not as clear cut of an ROI as moving $12,000 of furniture or stroking a check for 10. Right. So there's a lot more of a long, kind of squishy, amorphous kind of ROI thing that we have to kind of get better, I think, at articulating.
Exactly. It's not just about the 18%. You're right.
Yeah. Let's see. We got some other cool comments coming in here. We got generating cost savings without forgetting CX, customer experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here we are in this economic slowdown, I'll call it, right? Kind of a little bit of a pullback in a lot of industries, not every industry, but a lot of the big ones, right? Technology, finance, obviously real estate, right? Housing. Have you seen this move to cost cutting, and how are you navigating this?
Yeah. So saving on costs is evergreen.
Yeah. Right.
That'll never go away as a trend. So going back to Core Flex, so we've done research studies since the beginning of time. And when we started looking at Core Flex programs, the number one reason way back when for companies using them year after year after year, the number one reason was for saving on costs, because they felt like they didn't have to give away all the benefits if they just scaled them back and gave employees choices of what they wanted. It was kind of like a win-win. Now it's a complete reverse. So we published a survey on employee choice programs back in December, and it was almost a complete reverse of all the different reasons that companies are providing them, where employee experience came out at the top and cost was still in there, but it was in the middle somewhere, which was really interesting. So employee experience is now the top reason for providing Core Flex programs.
Interesting. Do we see a disconnect between what corporations say and what they do, as far as they say that customer experience or employee experience is number one, but maybe we see more cost-driven decisions than maybe we'd all like to admit? Do you ever see that disconnect?
So I think when we speak to our clients, I think it's the global mobility team. They get it. When I talk to clients, they want that experience. They understand. They know what matters. It's really when they go out to the businesses, and because most of the time the budgets are decentralized. The budgets are controlled within the business units, and they have to convince them that the dollars are best spent on the employee experience. That's what they're trying to drive to them. And they spend a considerable amount of time. I wish I could see people's faces right now, because I would suspect there's a lot of people nodding their heads right now.
Yeah.
That they spend a lot of their time trying to convince them that if you just spend a few more dollars, it's going to matter to this person and keep them for the long term. If you would just, get them an extra home finding trip or another day of settling and assistance, or ship them one more bag of their clothing to them. Don't shortchange them. In some cases, sometimes the businesses are cutting the budget and compromising their duty of care. And in some cases, it's coming down to compliance issues.
Yeah, I think, and compliance issues are always a fun one because that typically is a non-negotiable, right? So if something is a compliant, right? I mean, it's either legal or it's not legal, right? Tax is up there as well, right? And so I think that's a great one. So if we can live in the realm of compliance, I think we have a very strong case. It's interesting to me as we understand this is the problem. It's been the problem since I've gotten into this business about how do we arm our stakeholders in the global mobility department with the information and the value propositions they need to go to the business and make the case for global mobility and for continued investment and increased investment in the employee experience and talent mobility and as a strategic function and not a reactionary, function. So I want to ask you, what are some tips that you might give to us in the audience here? Because we're all on the same team in this one, right? What are some of the tips that you've seen, things that have worked for you or that you've seen worked as far as arming them with the information they need?
Well, I think the one thing that companies tend to fall back on and they rely on is benchmarking data. And I'm not going to say it's not important. It keeps food on my table. It's what we do. And they'll always need that. I'm going to date myself, encyclopedia full of numbers and the first thing their leaders are always going to ask them is what do our competitors do? So I'm not going to certainly say that's not important, but remember that benchmarking will only give you information at one point in time. It's not telling you the changes that other companies are considering making or that the exceptions that they're making. But so that's certainly one point of data.
That's a great point.
But you want more information. You kind of want that 360 view. So I also recommend getting that voice of the customer information too. So reaching out to other stakeholders and asking them about what internally, whether it's leadership, employees who have recently moved, what matters to them in their career, and the program, what's going to drive them in mobility as far as, what would it take for them to move again? What worked well, what didn't? More than just the regular service evaluation. What did they spend the most time on when they were moving? What meant the most to them, their family members? And then what meant the most to them personally when they were on the assignment? What got them the most excited? And then also reaching out to the business partners, what worked well, what didn't work well, and taking all that information to inform what would drive a better program. Then looking, of course, at exceptions history, bringing in all those kind of factors to create a better program.
Yeah, I love what you're saying here, and I've had the pleasure of sitting in on a few different talks at regional relocation councils where they've brought transferees, and assignees on stage, and they've kind of told their story firsthand, and it's funny because like sometimes they'll rip the van line or they'll rip the immigration, or they'll say, oh, I did a lump sum, I took the cash and I didn't know what I was doing. It's really fun. And we knowingly laugh, Yeah, they're great, right? And my favorite question to ask them is, what was the one benefit that you would highly recommend or take again or couldn't live without on your next relocation? And it's fun to hear what they say. And sometimes it's an amazing realtor they had that just like saved the day for them. Sometimes it's the moving crew where they're just like, wow, we had a full service move. We just sat on the couch, drank a lemonade, and just watched our furniture float out of the home, whatever it is. So those are some of the more common ones. Tyler's repping destination services over here, always promoting destination services.
I'm with Tyler. That is a trend that I would say I'm seeing quite a bit of. is more companies are adding destination services to their programs. It's something that if they are cutting costs, that's not where they're cutting costs, is they're adding more destination services. They're finding that employees need more of this in order to make more educated decisions about where they're going, the housing or rental, the accommodations, even if it's a temporary assignment when they're going into the new location, for their families as well, so they understand the area. It's certainly something that's going to make them make an informed decision.
Yeah, and I got one more here too, because I know this has been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing this, so I'm going to keep going here for just a minute. Farrell said, unfortunately, a slowdown in moves overall is a trend she's seeing. Rental market is still holding strong as people are choosing to rent versus buy initially. And obviously, I know how much of our services are tied up in revenue, frankly, is tied up around the home transaction, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing this slowdown, and what is driving it? And when will it be over? Dust off the crystal ball, Jen. Okay, we need answers. All right. What is driving the slowdown, and when is it going to be over?
The slowdown in moves overall?
Yes,
Well,
yes. Help me. I never thought I was going to say I miss peak season. Okay, I miss the frantic craziness of peak.
yeah, I know. I was kind of hoping to see it myself. I think it's a lot of it has to do with the economy and the remote work aspect as well. I think we were all expecting after the pandemic. We heard a lot about the gates are going to open and everybody's just going to the moves are just going to go crazy, and it wasn't quite exactly that way. I think what happened is people kind of hunkered down and said, I don't have to go into an office. I can continue to work the way I am. And even though you mentioned earlier, you kind of hit hit it right on the nose that people are working remotely and they can kind of keep going that way. Is that they're not necessarily going back into the office. They're still reluctant to go back into the office, even though it's more of an employer-driven market these days, and it's going to continue to be that way. Even though I think it's going to change more. So I think we're going to see it's going to get better. It's just not going to happen that fast.
Yeah, and I'm hearing from people, that they're 20-30% down in many cases, the more mature businesses. And I think last year was that pent up demand came, expressed itself in the market, and there wasn't really a summer never kind of ended, and then it fully kind of expressed itself, and then boom, we got hit with these mortgage rate, increases, right? Which really put the brakes on everything. I mean, had the mortgage rates not gone up, our economy would be off and roaring, I think, right now, as we can see inflation still resisting these hikes, but so I mean, I think it had to happen. I think it had to cool things off, because you can't just run like at that rate forever. But I think if we didn't see that, we would still be in a never-ending peak season from 2022. I think
the interest rates down just made it so unaffordable for anybody to want to, and unappetizing for anybody to want to leave whatever interest rate they're in now.
Yes, but I'll tell you this: as soon as they come back down, even maybe from 8% to like 6%, I think there's pent up demand building right now. I mean,
exactly.
I myself am looking for a house, and I'm kind of like, I don't know when I want to pull the trigger, right? And I think there's a lot of pent up demand building right now, and a lot more. There will also be a lot more inventory on the market, right? Because people can't move out of a home or sell their home because they can't move into another one. So there's some of that going on as well. Dave Nelson, well, this will be maybe our last one here that we take this trend here. Dave Nelson said a C-level people leader recently had people, air quotes here. A C-level people leader recently had their HR scope broadened to include facilities. This action aligned with this Fortune 500 entity's priority on bringing employees back into company workspaces in a hybrid model. Could this become a trend?
Wow. This is interesting. A C-level people leader recently had their HR scope broadened to include facilities. It's an action aligned with this priority on bringing employees back into company workspaces to a hybrid model. Yeah,
super interesting.
I could absolutely see this becoming a trend. Yeah, people being brought back into company workspaces. I was having this conversation with somebody earlier today that, you know, again, dating myself. I don't know if everybody remembers some years ago when companies were really going after talent and they were doing these really cool things with their workspaces, putting, slides into their offices and pool tables and all of that.
I heard you guys have a lot of slides actually at Weichert. Is that true?
Oh yeah. We have, slides and,
I heard there's a ball pit in Dave Bensamigo's office. Is that true?
Ping pong tables, all that. But nowadays, getting people back into the office, it's not about getting, trying to put cool things in. It's just about getting people to connect with each other. And it's like, okay, we don't have to put all those bells and whistles in. It's just getting people in and, finding the right days and times and having the right meeting spaces. It's like, hey, we only want you in here 2 to 3 days a week, but we want it to make it time that counts. And we want the right type of workspaces, but also the right types of meetings. We want to make sure that you understand why we want you in the office. We want to make sure that it's purpose driven, that we're sending the right communication to you, how you matter to the company, and that you're the kind of talent that we want to keep, and how you matter to the company, and how you actually how you help us to drive that bottom line for us.
I like what you're saying there, and the fact that people need to understand why they're in the office, and then it's not just the unction of the leader, right? And I think that it can feel that way sometimes, and I think it's really incumbent on the leadership to make the case for being together. But what's interesting here is the other trend that's packed into this, Dave, is the hybrid piece, right? And it seems like hybrid is the compromise that's being reached right now most commonly. But what I think is important about the hybrid is it still requires you to have some proximity to the office. Right. So if you moved from New York City to Nashville, Tennessee, post-COVID, and now you have to be in the office, even if it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, you still have to be like in Jersey. You can't be like in, or Pennsylvania. You could be in the Poconos maybe. Okay. I'll give you the Poconos. All right. But you got to be up in the Northeast, and that requires a relocation. The other thing I'm seeing too, from a talent standpoint, because we do a lot of recruiting, is that I'm seeing companies are now hiring local more than they were a year ago, and definitely 2 years ago. 2 years ago, every job was remote. 95% of jobs were remote, unless you worked in a factory or a moving company or at a plant, like assembling something, you could be remote. And now I'd say that probably shifted to now probably 50% in person, maybe 60% in person. And I'm seeing the new hires are going to be in the office. And I'm also seeing, people aren't going to want to hear this, but I'm also seeing a lot of those remote people that were hired last year are some of the first ones to be let go.
Yeah.
And I think and they're going to be backfilled by people that are in the office.
Yeah. And this could also disrupt our volumes, Ben, for a little while anyways, is that while it is an employer market, is if they're going to be hiring locally, they're going to have more choices about who they can hire. If they're going to be hiring locally, they're not necessarily going to need to relocate all of those new hires for a little while. It'll be incumbent upon the candidate to move to where those employers are. Wow. Oh, I think you're on mute, Ben.
I think we've been talking about work so much, right? I think we need some
These are such great trends.
We need some work-life balance. Jason, why do people need to be in the office? I don't know, Jason. I don't know, because that's where the fax machine is. I don't know, Jason. Why don't you tell me, Jason?
I hear you, Jason. I work remotely full time now, and I'm so happy to be in an office today. So
I think once we get over the initial barrier of getting new pants that fit, I think that's the biggest. Once you get a new wardrobe, you're like, okay, I'm back. I'm good. I'm ready to do this.
True.
Once you get a nice little podcast to tune into, and now you got something to do with your 33-minute commute, you're like, okay, those are some of the biggest hurdles, right? I think I like the collaboration. I think that just sitting around and chatting over, a deal or like a problem. Whereas am I going to pick up the phone and call somebody about this? Am I going to have a 30-minute Teams meeting about this situation? No. But if I'm sitting over here and I'm just chat with a colleague, like, I can't believe this happened. Oh, what happened? Oh, this happened. Oh, really? Have you tried this? Oh, yeah, but that didn't work. Oh, you tried this, and then all of a sudden, like, you're workshopping this thing, and that's something that just, I just love that. I just love it.
It's true. I think we've all been there. We've all had the conversations where we all say we love working from home. It's so convenient, for all the reasons, we've all been there. But at the same time, when we all see each other in person, we all say how much we miss it.
Yeah. And I think trust is another thing too. I'm learning more and more that trust is such a key element in a workplace. I think I undervalued it, and it sounds kind of ridiculous to say that, but I mean, I don't think I understood that trust is really the fundamental part of a relationship between teammates, and how much can be done with trust in an organization when it's present, and how little can be done when it's not present. And I think trust is built through in-person interactions.
I agree.
And so
I agree. Well said.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. You want to have some fun, Jen?
All right, let's do it.
Let's have some fun. Okay. All right. Let's do a little bit of overrated, underrated. You know how to play this game?
I do.
All right. We'll see. There's only 2 rules, Jen. Okay. You know the 2 rules? Rule number 1, I'm going to give you a topic, and you can say it's either overrated or underrated. Rule number 2, I get to tell you if you're right. Okay.
Wait, you get to tell me if I'm right? You're going to tell a New Englander if I'm right?
Oh, it's shaping up really well. Okay.
You're coming to ERC in Boston. You remember that. You're coming to my territory.
It's going to be a Donnybrook. Okay. Let's, Tyler says best part of the program right here. Yeah, we had a good one when Tyler was on. All right, let's go. Overrated, underrated. All right, let's start this off here. Middle seat on an airplane. Overrated or underrated?
Overrated. And nobody better tell me otherwise.
I'm going to get you on a technicality, because I don't think anyone has this high on their list. Like, honestly, middle seats shouldn't even exist. They should just take out the middle seat.
Exactly.
And like make it like one of those things where you could like put a baby in a high chair, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Like make it one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all for the planes that only have the 2 seats on either side.
That's called first class.
Yeah. No middle seat.
Jen just flies private around here. Okay.
Now you're talking.
All right. Next, world travel. Overrated or underrated?
I mean, we're in mobility. Underrated.
Yeah, people and this is changing, but people in the U.S., like I've read a stat one time where, and somebody should probably pull the stat because I'm just making things up at this point, but like have one of the lowest rates of holding passports historically, and we just don't travel enough globally here in the States. Yeah. I would agree with you on this one. I just started traveling globally within the last 3 years, and I just can't get enough of it. Yeah. But only if I'm not sitting in a middle seat.
Yeah, no middle seat. Yeah. I agree. And once you start doing it, you get it's addictive. You don't want to stop.
Ryan says, I need the aisle. At least I get the opportunity to stretch one leg out. One leg, Ryan, over here. But Ryan, then you get the cart come through. You might fall asleep with that one leg out. Do you lose a leg, man?
Yeah.
You lose a leg. You'll get on 2 legs. You'll leave with 1 leg in a wheelchair.
It's true. And then people have to go past you if you fall asleep.
I will kick you. If I'm walking by you, Ryan, I'll kick you right in the leg on purpose. All right, next one. Connecticut pizza, overrated or underrated? On the record.
All right, this is so controversial.
I like how you're putting your career on the line right now.
And I have to.
I respect you so much.
To get home. All right. Overrated.
Oh, she did it. She did it. Look at that. State your case.
If you're going to, on my list of things to do when you go to Boston for ERC, go to the North End. That's all I can say. That's where you want to go for pizza. However, I will say, on good advice from president of my company, Dave Benzavenga, I will be stopping for Pepe's Pizza on the way back from here. So please forgive me, everyone. I may be changing my mind.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Listen, you are the vice president of advisory services. So your opinion counts. I think we can agree on this.
A little bit.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a Pepe's White clam
yet.
pie.
Not yet.
You heard that aghastness? Just the audible aghastness.
Have you had North End pizza though?
I've eaten in the North End once, and it was Italian. I don't think it was a pie. I forget what it was. It was at ERC in Boston. All right. Okay. All right. I'll try your pizza. You're gonna try but how are you gonna say Connecticut's overrated though if you haven't had Pepe's before or Sally's?
Well, that's why. Can we just put a truce on this and put a hold on this one?
Listen, yeah, I mean, you better
Until
gas
I've
up.
had Pepe's.
You better gas up in New York because you don't stop in Connecticut with that kind of attitude, Jen. Okay.
I was gonna say, I might have to fly over Connecticut from now on.
Look at this. Jillian saying underrated, obviously. Yes. Jill's a Connecticut Yankee over there. Look at this. Hey, we got some, what though? We got some worse opinions than yours actually on this. So here. David says Montreal pizza. Is that a thing?
I agree. I was there. I know what he's talking about.
It's good?
It's really good. Like life-changing.
Life-changing. What makes it so good?
I could tell you the name, but it's yeah.
David, put it in there.
Dave can write in. It's that good. It's really
David,
good.
put a name in there. We need more information. Laura saying South Shore Bar Pizza.
Poopsies. I know what Laura's talking about. That's my favorite pizza of all time. It's called Poopsies Pizza.
Poopsies Pizza. And where is this pizza located? Where's South Shore?
Marshfield, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Marshfield.
Wow. Adrian saying I feel like Connecticut pizza is overrated. 4 years visiting my sister. Wow.
Thank you, Adrian.
Shots are fired.
Thank you, Adrian. You can protect me. Il Farino.
Il Farino.
Thanks, Dave.
North End Pizza. Sherry, what's the best spot in the North End, Sherry?
Thank you, Sherry.
Put it in there. Wow. Jill's going to hit Adrian in the face next time she sees him. This is great. DeLucia's Pizza in Raritan, New Jersey. Tops all one bite. Everyone knows the rules. Dave Portnoy rules there. Okay. Well, next time I come to Weichert, which hopefully will be in July, we're going to go to DeLucia's Pizza in Raritan. I've been to Raritan before. Okay. All right. This is good. See, this is the kind of stuff that the mobility industry needs to know about. To be honest with you, it's like not all the other stuff. This is the stuff right here. Okay, Di Lorenzo's in Robbinsville. It beat Pepe's. So Pepe's was like the number one slice on Dave Portnoy's ratings. Now Di Lorenzo's in Robbinsville, New Jersey. Okay,
wow.
All right, we'll check it out, Chris. That's information. That's good insight.
Yeah, see?
All right, let's keep it moving. I know we're over time. Let's keep it moving here. What's the next one? The Red Sox, overrated, underrated.
The Red Sox.
Is Tim McCarty back there?
Yeah, he's
red
right
back there.
next to me. He has thoughts.
Is his whole face red? Not just the whole thing is red now.
As somebody with a very successful Red Sox blog, I'm gonna say highly underrated.
Is he threatening you? Blink twice if he's threatening you. Okay, is he threatening?
No, it's
say that?
all it's good. No. I am a huge Red Sox fan. Are you kidding me?
Sure you are.
I was just at Fenway.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
No, that's fine.
Hey,
Okay.
on my list, everybody, I highly recommend. Whoa, Jason. No. If you ever go to Boston, I recommend anyone, even if you're not a Red Sox fan, go for a tour of Fenway. It is one of the funniest, best times you'll ever have. They even let you go inside the Green Monster.
Okay.
It's really cool.
I've never been to Fenway.
I want to go. Hysterical.
Okay, I want to go to Fenway. When I go for ERC, I'll go a day early. We'll go to Fenway. I'm sure there's got to be a ball game. Well, it's going to be the playoffs, so maybe not.
Yeah, it's usually around that time of year.
I don't.
Who knows?
Probably not. All right. Last one. Hosting a podcast, overrated, underrated.
Well, that's personal, but I'll say it's if it's you, I'll say it's underrated.
No, it's you.
But you know what? When are you going to come on my show?
Hey, I respect the hard close. I'm in. Right. You have your people talk to my people, and now that we have people,
my show, make work happen.
I love it. Make work happen. I love the name too.
But I will always respect what you're doing because you have made a huge contribution to our industry. You've given us all a voice, and can never step into your shoes. And my goodness, do you look sharp in that suit when you were at FEM? So
Oh, thank you.
whoever told you to take off, to not wear that tie, ignore them. Listen to
Yeah.
your voice.
You know, they're still doing that job, and now I'm making these podcasts, so I don't know who won, but no, thank you so much for saying that, and I would definitely love to come on your podcast. And now, because you've been on my show, Jen, you are invited to our Love and Relo 500 VIP experience event, which is going to be in Dallas. And everybody who's ever been on the show is invited. It is going to be a real who's who of the industry. 500 episodes in now, August 3rd. So clear your calendar. We're going to have some incredible speakers. There are going to be some great corporate folks as well. It is going to be something. I hope you can make it.
Excellent.
We're going to have Connecticut pizza. It's going to be great. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. But I'm not only if I fly private.
Private, of course. No, you and Dave. I got you guys already booked private. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Oh, well, there's gonna be enough people from Weichert coming. There's gonna be probably 5 people from Weichert. So, you know, between Sandy McKinney and Vicky Lander and I think Ellie and then Dave and you, and is that it? Gosh, that's 5 people right there. So wow. Yeah, that's a whole plane. I mean, just tell Jim, be like, listen, I just need to take it down the street, you know?
There you go. Ben said so.
Yeah, Jason says, who's the 500 guest? I'm not telling you, Jason. Not telling you. Got to watch, Jason. But $4.99 is going to be Kerwin. What show is this? Is this $4.98, Adam? It's $4.98. Did you know you're $4.98?
Woohoo! So close.
I know that didn't. I don't know if that was. It was supposed to sound good. I don't know if it sounds good or not. This has been great. I know we're over time here, but I do want to give you the last word. You've been wonderful, Jen. Do you want to leave us with a thought at all?
My last thought is everybody keep having fun. I mean, honestly, that's what this is all about. I love what I do. I can tell, Ben, you love what you do. It's really an exciting time to be in mobility, and we wouldn't be here if we didn't. If things weren't constantly changing. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody soon, whether it's at the 500th show or at ERC in Boston. So keep smiling, everyone.
Love it. Keep smiling. Keep having fun. That's a great reminder. Thank you so much, Jen. This has been wonderful. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Hit that like button. We wouldn't have a show without you. We'd just be 2 people chatting for too long. But thank you for everybody tuned in. This has been amazing. And tune in for show 499, which is going to be Kerwin Guillermo. That's correct. Wow. All right. Yes. Kerwin Guillermo, 499. He's been wanting to get back on for 3 years. I finally let him do it. He's coming back. 499. It's gonna be great. Hopefully my internet holds up. It did not the first time he was on. So tune in for that. That will be July 6th, I believe. July 6th. We're taking a little bit of break for 4th of July. Jen, this was awesome. I can't wait to see you maybe in August. I don't know.